The cold orange juice, pulp and all, splattered across Dr. Jordan Ellis's back, soaking her blazer. Excited guttural laughter erupted from the Whitmores, echoing off the vaulted ceilings of the exclusive Meadowbrook Country Club. "That's my boy!" David Whitmore roared, his face flushed with paternal pride, high-fiving his 12-year-old son, Brandon. They were completely oblivious that this single, cruel act had just set fire to their entire world. This wasn't just juice. It was the first drop in a deluge that would wash away their privilege, their reputation, and everything they thought they owned. But to truly understand the devastating consequences of that moment, we must rewind to an earlier hour, a seemingly innocent brunch, and the calculated cruelty that paved the way for their spectacular downfall. Patricia Whitmore's voice, sharp as a surgeon's scalpel, cut through the genteel murmur of the Meadowbrook terrace, drawing every eye and silencing even the softest clinking of crystal. Her tone, laced with venom and an almost theatrical disgust, was designed to be heard. Her gaze, a predatory, contemptuous stare, fixed on the lone figure seated near a panoramic window, a black woman, quietly occupying a corner, dressed in dark jeans and a simple navy blazer, an outfit that screamed outsider in Patricia's meticulously curated world of designer labels and inherited wealth. "Babe, look! It seems we've got ourselves another charity case," Patricia purred, elbowing her husband David, a delicate, manicured finger pointing with dramatic disdain. Her words, though directed at him, were projected to ensure maximum audience engagement. Trying to mingle with the real members, no less. How utterly quaint! A high-pitched, brittle laugh escaped her, a sound that grated on the ears. "What's next, darling?" she cooed, but her eyes never left the woman. "Perhaps they'll start accepting food stamps at the gourmet buffet. One simply must maintain standards, after all." Meadowbrook Country Club was more than just real estate. It was an institution, a fortress of old money and entrenched power, sprawling across 47 pristine acres of manicured Connecticut lawn. The turf, a shocking emerald green, whispered of the 3 full-time groundskeepers and a 6-figure irrigation system required to maintain its perfection. Ancient oaks, gnarled and majestic, lined the winding entrance, their branches whispering tales of generations of privilege. Bentleys and Maseratis, polished to a mirror sheen, rotated through the valet circle, a silent parade of affluence. It was Saturday morning, precisely 11:47 a.m., and the Spring Benefactors brunch was in full, opulent swing. Crystal chandeliers, sparkling like captured starlight, hung from vaulted ceilings, casting a soft glow on oil paintings that adorned every wall. These were the stoic, humorless faces of the club's founders, all white men, all long dead, their legacies now held aloft by their descendants. The air, heavy with the sweet, intoxicating scent of fresh lilies, was punctuated only by the soft, almost ethereal strains of violins playing in a distant corner. Membership wasn't just expensive, a hefty $50,000 per year with a 7-year waiting list. It was exclusive. Money alone wasn't enough. You had to fit. The membership committee, fiercely protective of their community character, had rejected 19 applications in the last 2 years, 15 of them from people of color. Servers, silent and almost invisible in their crisp white gloves, moved like shadows through the gilded rooms. Most were black or Latino, their eyes downcast, having learned the unspoken rules of this gilded cage. This was where Connecticut's elite gathered not just to eat, but to make deals, to arrange strategic marriages for their children, to ensure their offspring attended the right schools, joined the right firms, and married into the right families. It was a finely tuned machine of generational power, and anyone perceived as an anomaly was swiftly, often cruelly, identified and neutralized. Jordan Ellis had arrived at 11:15 a.m., a deliberate 43 minutes before the chaos began. She was 43 years old, a force of intellect and will, holding a PhD in aerospace engineering from MIT. Her company, Ellis Industries, was a titan in defense technology, manufacturing cutting-edge solutions for national security. Last quarter alone had brought in a staggering $600 million in revenue, fueled by the tireless efforts of 12,000 employees spread across 8 states. Forbes magazine had profiled her just 3 months prior, the headline emblazoned across its glossy cover, "From Garage Startup to Defense Giant, How Dr. Jordan Ellis Built a Billion-Dollar Empire." Today, however, she had dressed down, not to conceal her identity, but to highlight it. Dark jeans, a simple navy blazer from Nordstrom Rack, deliberately chosen for its unremarkable appearance, modest gold studs, and her natural hair pulled back in a practical bun. There was no designer bag, no flashy jewelry, nothing to hint at the vast empire she commanded. She had chosen this attire as a social experiment, a test of the club's true colors. Robert Henderson, the club president, had personally invited her, hoping to secure Ellis Industries as a sponsor for a new STEM program, a $5 million commitment over 3 years. The club desperately needed the positive publicity. Jordan, however, had one condition. She wanted to observe their culture firsthand, not as Dr. Ellis, the CEO, or as a benevolent donor, but as a ghost, an unrecognized guest. She wanted to see how the members treated people they instinctively assumed didn't belong, and so she sat alone at a corner table, head down, appearing like someone's assistant who had mistakenly wandered in, or perhaps a minor vendor awaiting instructions. Her phone, nestled discreetly in her pocket, was recording. It was a habit born of necessity, honed over years of navigating microaggressions and overt racism. She had learned to document everything, every insult, every dismissive glance, every moment people, cloaked in their privilege, revealed their true, ugly selves. She was reviewing quarterly reports, her mind immersed in complex projections, when the impact hit, a soft, wet thud against the back of her head, followed by a sickeningly sweet warmth dripping down her scalp. Chocolate. Now, dark, sticky chocolate streamed down her hair, ruining her meticulous documents, staining the collar of her blazer. Patricia Whitmore's cackle cut through the sudden hush, sharp and unrestrained. The Whitmores, positioned 3 tables over in the center terrace, commanded the best view of the golf course, a visual metaphor for their status. Patricia, 45, with too many blonde highlights and an overabundance of Botox, was, according to her Instagram bio, a luxury lifestyle influencer, boasting 47,000 followers. Her feed was a curated tableau of Range Rovers, Hermes bags, and Hampton weekends, each caption a testament to her manufactured bliss. #blessed, #grateful, #living my best life. She reigned over the Ladies' Auxiliary Committee, a self-appointed arbiter of the club's social calendar, deciding who was invited, and more importantly, who truly belonged. Only 2 years prior, Patricia had personally blocked 3 families of color from membership, invoking vague yet insidious phrases like culture fit, traditional values, and preserving community character. David Whitmore, 52, was the beneficiary of third-generation wealth. His grandfather had founded Whitmore Properties in 1958, and David, a master of inheritance, not much else, now presided over an empire boasting $890 million in assets, shopping centers, office parks, and luxury apartments. His company was currently vying for the biggest deal of his career. Ellis Industries, Jordan's company, needed a headquarters campus, a massive $1.5 billion project comprising 15 buildings and accommodating 3,000 employees. Whitmore Properties was the lead bidder. David had spent 6 grueling months on the proposal, schmoozing, networking, calling in every favor he could. The final decision meeting was set for Monday morning, a mere 48 hours away. David had no idea, absolutely no inkling, that he had just watched his own son assault Dr. Jordan Ellis. And Patricia didn't know either. Nobody in that gilded room did. Brandon Whitmore, a privileged and unchecked 12-year-old, was an only child, already expelled from 2 private schools for incessant bullying. His third academy had only reluctantly accepted him after his parents donated a brand new library wing, a common tactic to erase inconvenient truths. He had never heard the word no, never faced genuine consequences. His parents, with their endless checks and powerful connections, always intervened, always made his problems disappear. He was a perfect mirror, reflecting everything they had subtly, and not so subtly, taught him. The contempt for those they deemed lesser, the absolute entitlement, the deeply ingrained belief that some people simply mattered less than others. Jordan sat perfectly still, a silent anchor in a swirling storm of mockery. The chocolate, now cooled and tacky, tugged at her white collar, a tangible symbol of the indignity. She reached for a napkin with movements so controlled, so deliberate, they seemed almost ritualistic. Her breathing remained measured, a testament to her discipline. Yet beneath the table, her hands trembled, betraying the raw emotion she meticulously suppressed. Thomas, the club manager, a man whose 53 years had been largely spent navigating the treacherous currents of Meadowbrook's elite, stood near the kitchen doors, a silent sentinel. He was black, and in his 30 years of service, he had seen everything, heard everything, and said nothing. He had bills to pay, grandchildren to help through college, a life built on quiet endurance. He watched Jordan dab chocolate from her hair, his jaw clenched, his fists tightening imperceptibly at his sides. Every instinct screamed to intervene, but decades of learned deference held him captive. He stayed where he was, a silent witness to a scene he knew all too well. An elderly woman at table 7, Margaret, 72 years old and with a gaze that had seen much of life, began to rise, a flicker of outrage in her eyes. Her husband, Harold, a man whose spirit had long been dulled by conformity, grabbed her wrist, pulling her back down with a sharp, almost violent shake of his head. He mouthed a silent "don't." She sat. Everyone sat. Everyone watched. Nobody helped. The silent complicity hung heavy in the perfumed air. Jordan, with an almost surgical precision, placed her chocolate-stained napkin onto the pristine white linen of the table. Water, having splashed from her earlier encounter with the croissant, had seeped across her meticulously organized documents. Ink bled through quarterly projections, strategic plans, and confidential reports, turning critical data into abstract art. Her hands, still trembling slightly, moved carefully, deliberately, like a bomb disposal expert defusing a volatile device. Breathe. Focus. Don't let them see you crack. Patricia's voice, a shrill, piercing command, sliced through the terrace again, demanding attention. "Thomas!" she snapped, her fingers clicking impatiently, a queen summoning a servant. "Thomas, get over here!" Thomas, his face a carefully constructed mask of neutrality, approached their table. His demeanor was professional, impassive. Years of practice had perfected the art of appearing invisible while serving the visible. "Yes, Mrs. Whitmore?" His voice was a calm, even monotone. "That woman," Patricia said, pointing a dismissive finger at Jordan without even bothering to look at her directly, as if she were an inconvenient object. "I don't recall seeing her on the guest list. Did you check her invitation?" Thomas hesitated, a microsecond of internal conflict before decades of training won out. "Mr. Henderson invited her personally, ma'am," he offered, his voice betraying a hint of carefully suppressed defiance. Patricia's eyes narrowed, thin lines appearing around their corners. "Robert Henderson invited her?" She let out a disbelieving laugh, sharp and mocking. "I find that very hard to believe, Thomas. He knows our standards. He knows who belongs here." Jordan kept her head down, her movements precise and deliberate. She continued stacking her now damp papers, one page after another, her jaw tight, a muscle clenching rhythmically. Each gentle placement of a ruined document was an act of quiet rebellion. "Ma'am, I assure you," Thomas started, attempting to maintain his professional composure, his voice a low, steady drone. "Don't assure me of anything," Patricia interrupted, her voice rising in pitch and volume. She stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the polished marble floor with a harsh, echoing shriek that silenced any lingering whispers. "I'm going to handle this myself." Her Louis Vuitton heels, each step a sharp, defiant click, carried her across the terrace with predatory speed. David, phone still clutched in his hand, followed in her wake, a shadow of her imperious will. Brandon, eyes gleaming with childish malice and a nascent sense of power, trailed behind them, a wide, malevolent grin plastered across his face. Other diners, drawn by the escalating spectacle, turned to watch, some even pulling out their phones, ready to capture the unfolding drama. The violinist in the corner, startled by the sudden shift in atmosphere, missed a note, a jarring dissonance in the otherwise perfect morning. Patricia stopped directly behind Jordan's chair, so close that the cloying, heavy scent of her Chanel No. 5 perfume, applied in generous excess, became overwhelming. "Excuse me." Her voice was pure ice, cutting through the remaining silence. "This is a members-only event. I'm the president of the Ladies' Auxiliary Committee, and I don't recognize you." Jordan continued meticulously stacking her waterlogged papers, her hands moving with unhurried precision. She didn't turn around, a silent refusal to acknowledge the unwarranted aggression. "I'm talking to you." Patricia's voice rose, edged with barely contained fury, the insult of being ignored clearly igniting her temper. "It's basic manners to look at someone when they're speaking." Finally, Jordan turned, her movements slow and deliberate. Chocolate still streaked her hair, a grotesque crown, but her eyes, when they met Patricia's, were calm, unnervingly calm. They held a depth that Patricia, accustomed to easy intimidation, failed to register. "I was invited by Mr. Henderson," she stated quietly, her voice a low, even tone. "I have every right to be here." Patricia's laugh was sharp, devoid of humor. Robert Henderson wouldn't invite someone dressed like that to a benefactor's event. Let's be real. She gestured dismissively at Jordan's simple attire with a perfectly manicured hand, a sneer twisting her lips. Jeans to Meadowbrook? What are you, the help? David stepped closer, his presence adding another layer of intimidation. He sized Jordan up, his gaze sweeping over her like a rancher appraising livestock at auction. Look, miss, nobody wants a scene. Why don't you just leave quietly? His tone was condescending, an offer he believed she couldn't refuse. I have an invitation, Jordan repeated, her voice unwavering, a quiet challenge to their authority. From who? Patricia scoffed, crossing her arms, her stance aggressive and dismissive. Show me. It was verbal. Mr. Henderson called me personally. Patricia smirked, a cruel, self-satisfied twist of her lips. How convenient. No paper trail. She turned to the watching crowd, an audience for her public performance. Anyone can claim they were invited, right? A few people in the background offered timid nods, caught in the undertow of Patricia's undeniable force. Others looked distinctly uncomfortable, their gazes darting away, but none dared to speak up. David, still holding his phone, decided to assert his own power. I'm calling Robert right now. We'll get this cleared up. He dialed, waited, the silence of the line stretching thin. The call went to voicemail. Damn it, he's on the golf course. Of course he is. Patricia's smile was vicious, a triumphant glint in her eyes. So, we have no proof you were invited. You're wearing jeans, and you were going through corporate documents that don't belong to you. Her gaze dropped to Jordan's scattered papers. Without warning, she reached across the table, her fingers snatching one of Jordan's confidential reports, holding it up to the light as if inspecting a counterfeit bill. Her eyes scanned the header, a triumphant sneer forming. Ellis Industries Q2 to aerospace projections. Patricia read aloud, mocking, drawing out each word with exaggerated disdain. Oh, this is rich. Did you steal these from some office? Corporate espionage? Jordan stood slowly, deliberately. She was 3 inches taller than Patricia, a statuesque figure now rising above her tormentor. That's confidential property, she stated, her voice calm but firm. I need it back. Or what? Patricia challenged, her voice dripping with insolence, holding the paper even higher, just out of Jordan's reach. You'll call your lawyer, sweetie. Lawyers cost money. With a theatrical flourish, she ripped the paper in half, then in half again. The pieces fluttered to the floor like snow, delicate fragments of destroyed work. Oops! The terrace went silent. Even the violins, which had tentatively resumed their melody, ceased their playing. The only sound was the frantic pounding of Jordan's own heart, a drumbeat against the silence. Her hands curled into tight fists at her sides, nails digging into her palms. Her breathing remained controlled. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Her therapist's voice echoing in her mind. Don't let them see you break. You just destroyed corporate property, Jordan stated evenly, her voice a low hum that somehow cut through the thick silence, devoid of anger but imbued with an undeniable, chilling authority. David laughed, a short, dismissive bark. Lady, I don't know what office you clean, but those documents probably belong to your employer, not you. He stepped closer, invading her personal space, close enough that Jordan could detect the unmistakable scent of bourbon on his breath. Let me guess, you're somebody's secretary, an administrative assistant here to pick up your boss's paperwork? He glanced around, seeking validation, and found it in the knowing smiles of a few nearby diners. Maybe she's catering staff, Patricia added, her voice laced with a saccharine cruelty. The uniform room is through the kitchen, honey. Laughter, a thin, brittle ripple, spread through the nearby tables. Not everyone participated, but enough did to make the sound a powerful, collective weapon. Jordan bent down to collect the torn pieces of her report. Her hands, which had been so controlled moments ago, now shook visibly, betraying the immense effort it took to maintain her composure. Brandon, seizing the opportunity, darted forward with the mischievous glee of an unchecked child. He kicked Jordan's briefcase hard. It toppled over, its contents spilling across the pristine marble floor. Documents exploded outwards, scattering like confetti. Pens rolled. A tablet clattered against the hard surface with a sickening thud. Brandon! Patricia's voice was delighted, a thinly veiled commendation disguised as a reprimand. Stop that! You'll get your shoes dirty! But her laughter, bright and unrestrained, gave away her true feelings. Jordan knelt, a silhouette of quiet humiliation. She gathered her papers on her hands and knees, the chocolate from her hair now dripping onto the floor, staining a red leather folder, a USB drive, contracts emblazoned with government seals. David watched her crawl, his expression a mixture of disgust and amusement. "Look, sweetheart," he drawled, his voice thick with condescension. "I don't know what diversity hire program landed you here, but Meadowbrook is a private club. We have standards, we have traditions." He uttered the word diversity as if it were a foul taste on his tongue. Patricia circled Jordan like a shark, her voice a low, menacing purr. "What David's trying to say politely is that you'd be more comfortable at the public facilities in town. You know, where people like you usually go. People like you." The words hung in the air, heavy and unambiguous. No one pretended anymore what this was about. Jordan stayed on her knees, gathering the fragmented pieces of her professional life. Her face was a mask of stone, but her eyes, brimming with unshed tears, were wet. Thomas, the club manager, took a decisive step forward, his jaw clenched, his composure finally cracking. "Mrs. Whitmore, perhaps we should—" "Stay out of this, Thomas." Patricia didn't even bother to look at him, her attention fixed on Jordan's kneeling figure. Her voice was sharp, a clear warning. "Unless you want to join her." Thomas froze, his hands clenching into white-knuckled fists at his sides. 30 years of swallowing words, of enduring indignities, had cemented his silence, but the struggle was etched plainly on his face. Margaret, the elderly woman at table 7, rose again, her frail body trembling with indignation. "Patricia, that's enough," she declared, her voice surprisingly strong. Her husband, Harold, with a desperate, fearful grunt, yanked her down once more. "Margaret, don't!" he hissed. She sat, a silent picture of frustrated protest. Jordan gathered the last document, a crumpled page of intricate diagrams. She stood slowly, her briefcase in one hand, the torn papers in the other. Chocolate stained her blazer, a dark badge of humiliation, and water soaked her jeans. Her gaze, cold and direct, swept over Patricia, then David, then Brandon, a silent, all-encompassing indictment. "I understand perfectly," she said, her voice quiet but resonant, carrying an undeniable weight. "More than you know." She turned toward the terrace exit, her path stretching across 10 tables, each filled with silent, staring faces. Every eye in the room followed her, a collective, voyeuristic stare. She made it 5 steps. Brandon, still high on the adrenaline of his previous act, grabbed his glass of orange juice. It was half full, pulp floating ominously on top, a sickly sweet concoction. He wound back his arm, a mischievous glint in his eyes. "Brandon, no!" Thomas, his voice a desperate cry, finally broke his silence. But it was too late. The juice, cold and sticky, hit Jordan square in the back, soaking through her blazer, leaving a vivid, blossoming stain. Orange pulp slid slowly down her spine, a final, physical insult. Patricia's shriek of delighted laughter echoed off the vaulted ceiling, a sound both jarring and triumphant. She doubled over, clutching her stomach, tears of mirth streaming down her face. "Oh my God, Brandon! Oh, you're just too much!" David, beaming with pride, high-fived his son across the table. "That's my boy! That's my boy!" Other parents, uncomfortable but unwilling to challenge the powerful Whitmores, offered weak smiles. Some shook their heads in silent disapproval. A few simply looked away, choosing ignorance over courage. Jordan stopped walking. She stood perfectly still, a lone, soaked figure in the center of the grand terrace. Orange juice dripped from her blazer onto the polished marble floor, slowly forming a small, viscous pool around her expensive heels. She didn't turn around, didn't speak. Her shoulders rose and fell with each measured breath, a visible tremor beneath the wet fabric. Then, slowly, deliberately, she reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. The screen, dark only moments ago, illuminated, revealing a recording app. It had been recording since she arrived. 23 minutes of crisp audio, capturing every sneer, every insult, every laugh. She tapped stop, saved the file, her thumb pressing down with a finality that resonated through the room. Then she turned. Her face was calm, eerily so. She looked at Patricia, at David, at Brandon, and then her gaze swept over every single person watching, holding their eyes, allowing them to feel the weight of their complicity. "I'm leaving now," she said, her voice carrying across the vast terrace, clear, controlled, and utterly devoid of emotion. "But I'll be in touch." Patricia, still flushed with mirth, waved a dismissive hand. "Oh, we're so scared," she cooed, her sarcasm sharp. "Thomas, Call security. I want her escorted out properly. That won't be necessary, Jordan interrupted, her eyes locking onto David's. Her gaze was chilling, piercing. I know the way. She turned and walked toward the exit, her head held high. Orange juice and chocolate left a small, irregular trail behind her on the pristine marble floor, a vivid testament to the morning's barbarity. Her heels clicked with a measured, deliberate rhythm, each step a declaration. At the large, ornate double doors, she paused, turned back one last time. See you Monday, Mr. Whitmore. David frowned, a perplexed expression creasing his brow. Monday? Lady? I don't even know who you are. Jordan smiled. It was a cold, thin smile, devoid of warmth, a chilling rictus that didn't reach her eyes, which remained fathomless. You will. Then she was gone, leaving behind a silence far heavier than before. Patricia burst into fresh laughter, a triumphant, almost hysterical sound. Did she just threaten us? Did everyone hear that? She pulled out her phone, fingers flying across the screen, already crafting her narrative. This is going on Instagram, when random people crash your event and then make threats. Hashtag Meadowbrook standards. David returned to his table, sat down, and picked up his mimosa, taking a long, defiant gulp. Crazy woman, he mumbled, wiping a bit of pulp from his lip. Probably mentally ill. Brandon, still grinning, high on adrenaline and the intoxicating approval of his parents, leaned back in his chair. Thomas stood near the kitchen door, his fists white-knuckled, his breathing heavy, the decades of suppressed frustration simmering just beneath the surface. Margaret, the elderly woman, leaned toward her husband, whispering urgently, Harold, that was wrong. We should have said something. Stay out of it, he hissed back, his gaze fixed on his untouched plate. The violins tentatively resumed playing. Conversations, hesitant at first, picked back up. Servers returned to work. The terrace slowly, eerily returned to normal, as if Jordan Ellis had never been there at all. Patricia posted the Instagram story before Jordan's car had even left the sprawling parking lot. She uploaded a photo taken discreetly from behind, capturing Jordan's back, the vibrant orange juice stain a stark contrast against her blazer as she walked toward the exit. Patricia added a text overlay, bold and dismissive. When random people try crashing our events, security handled it though. She embellished the post with an assortment of digital stickers, laughing emojis, a gif of someone being elegantly escorted out, and a litany of hashtags. #Meadowbrook standards, #private club life, #know your place. She hit share with a triumphant flourish. Within 10 minutes, the story had garnered 400 views. Within 30, that number had swelled to 3,000, a digital wildfire spreading across her follower base. Comments flooded in immediately. OMG, who was that? You're so brave, Patricia. Protecting your community. But other, more critical comments began to appear, tiny cracks in her carefully constructed facade. This feels racist. What if she was invited? Why are you posting this? Patricia, ruthless in her curation, deleted the critical ones, blocked 2 users who dared to question her, and continued scrolling, basking in the glow of adoration. One comment, however, made her pause. It was a simple question, but it carried an unexpected weight. Wait, is that Jordan Ellis? She spoke at my university last year. She's a CEO. Patricia, momentarily confused, but dismissing it as a disgruntled follower, screenshotted the comment and sent it to David with 3 laughing emojis, a silent testament to her unwavering conviction that she was in the right. He didn't respond. He was too absorbed in his mimosa and the pleasant thought of the impending $1.5 billion deal. 64 minutes after Jordan had exited the club, David's phone rang. The caller ID displayed Robert Henderson, the club president. David answered cheerfully, his voice smooth and confident. Rob, how's the back 9? David? Robert's voice was tight, strained, utterly devoid of his usual bonhomie. I just got 6 texts about an incident at brunch. What happened? Oh, that. David waved his free hand dismissively, as if swatting away an annoying fly. Some woman tried crashing the event. Patricia handled it. No big deal. He paused, taking a sip of his mimosa. Just some woman. Some woman? Robert's voice rose, edged with an alarming fury. David, who was she? What did she look like? I don't know, David said, his dismissive tone beginning to falter slightly under the unexpected intensity of Robert's anger. Black woman, jeans, didn't belong. Claimed you invited her, but oh God. Robert's breathing was audible over the phone, ragged and desperate. "Oh God, David, what did you do?" The panic in his voice was palpable. "What?" David asked, genuinely bewildered. "We just asked her to leave. She was going through corporate documents, probably stolen, frankly. We were just protecting the club." That was Jordan Ellis. Silence. David's mimosa glass, halfway to his lips, froze in midair. His hand began to tremble. "What?" The word was a raw, disbelieving gasp. "Jordan Ellis," Robert repeated, his voice now a low, dangerous growl. "CEO of Ellis Industries, the company I invited personally to discuss the STEM sponsorship. The 5 million STEM sponsorship, David." The terrace, moments ago merely warm, suddenly felt unbearably hot, suffocating. David's expensive silk tie, which had felt so luxurious earlier, now seemed to choke him. That's not possible," David stammered, his mind racing, trying to reconcile the image of the humiliated woman with the name of a formidable industry leader. She looked like what, David?" Robert's voice was pure ice, cutting through David's stuttering protest. "Now finish that sentence." David swallowed hard, the bourbon-laced mimosa turning to ash in his mouth. "She wasn't dressed like a CEO," he finally managed, a pathetic excuse. "She was conducting an anonymous evaluation of our club culture, David." Robert practically screamed into the phone. "Before committing $5 million, she wanted to see how we treated people she assumed didn't belong." Robert paused, his breath coming in ragged gasps. "What did you do?" David's mouth was bone dry, his tongue thick. "There was a misunderstanding," he mumbled, a weak, wholly inadequate defense. "My son, Patricia." His mind scrambled for words, for blame, for anything but the horrifying truth. "We didn't know. Your son. What did Brandon do?" Robert's voice was a barely contained explosion of fury. David didn't answer immediately. "David, what did your son do to her?" He threw some food," David admitted, the words barely audible. He tried to laugh it off, a forced, desperate sound. "It was a joke, Rob. Kids being kids. He threw food at a guest I personally invited?" Robert's voice cracked, bordering on hysterical. "Are you insane? It was just a croissant." David blurted out, then trailed off, remembering the second, equally egregious offense. "And what else?" Robert pressed, his tone menacing. "Orange juice," David whispered, his hand sweating against the phone, now realizing the full horror of the escalating aggressions. "Maybe Patricia might have said some things, but we didn't know who she was." "That's exactly the problem, David," Robert roared, his voice trembling with righteous indignation. "You didn't need to know. You should treat every guest with respect. Every single human being who walks through those doors." Robert disconnected the call, leaving David staring at his phone, the dial tone a mournful dirge. David stared at his phone, a leaden weight in his trembling hand. The dial tone continued its mournful hum, a soundtrack to his rapidly unraveling reality. He couldn't move. He couldn't breathe. Jordan Ellis. The name echoed in his mind, morphing from a dismissive label to a colossal, terrifying threat. His fingers, stiff and uncooperative, finally found the Google app. He typed, "Jordan Ellis EO." The screen instantly filled with results. A Forbes profile, recent interviews, a corporate headshot that exuded power and intelligence, a TED Talk with over 2 million views. He clicked on Images. And there she was. Professional photo, blazer and pearls, hair impeccably styled, a confident, knowing smile. The same face, the same woman. His stomach dropped like an elevator with cut cables, a sickening lurch that left him breathless. He scrolled frantically, a desperate hope flickering in his mind that it was a mistake, a cruel joke. He found her company website, Ellis Industries, and then the procurement page, headquarters project request for proposals. His company name, Whitmore Properties Group, was prominently listed, lead bidder status, under final review, final decision meeting, Monday, 9:00 a.m., 29 hours away. David's vision blurred. The opulent terrace, moments ago a symbol of his privilege, spun around him. He grabbed the edge of the table for support, his knuckles white. "Patricia!" His voice came out strangled, a raw croak. "Patricia, get over here!" She was 3 tables away, showing her friends the now viral Instagram post, basking in their sycophantic admiration. "What?" she called back, annoyance clear in her tone. "I'm busy now." The sharpness in David's voice, however, made her stand. She walked over, an impatient frown on her Botox-smooth forehead. "What's wrong with you?" "That woman!" David rasped, his voice barely audible, his eyes wide with terror. "The one Brandon threw food at." "What about her?" Patricia asked, her concern minimal. "That was Jordan Ellis." Patricia blinked. "Who?" "Jordan Ellis! CEO of Ellis Industries, the company I'm bidding for. The $1.5 billion contract." David's hands were shaking so violently he almost dropped his mimosa glass again. "The final meeting is Monday." Patricia's face went white, the artificial tan draining away, revealing the pallor beneath. No, she wasn't. It can't be. I just Googled her, Patricia. It's her, the same woman." Patricia snatched his phone, her own hands now trembling as she stared at the images of Jordan Ellis, the formidable CEO. "Oh my God," she whispered, her voice barely a breath. "Oh my God, David, that's not possible. She was dressed like—" "I know what she was dressed like!" David roared, standing abruptly. His chair fell backward, crashing against the marble with a deafening clamor, making every head in the club turn. "And you posted it on Instagram." "I'll delete it!" Patricia shrieked, already pulling out her phone, her fingers fumbling with panicked urgency. "Right now! I'll delete it!" She opened Instagram, her heart pounding. The story was still up. Views, 3,400. Shares, 47. She hit delete. A chilling message popped up. "Story has been shared. Deletion may not remove all copies." "No! No! 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 No!" Patricia's finger jabbed the screen frantically, desperately hitting delete again and again, but it was too late. Screenshots already existed. People had saved it, shared it to other platforms, immortalizing her cruelty. "What do we do?" Patricia's voice was shrill, childlike, on the verge of a breakdown. "We apologize, right? We send flowers, a donation. We explain it was a misunderstanding." David was already typing an email on his own phone, his fingers fumbling clumsily over the keys. "Dear Ms. Ellis," he wrote, his mind a jumble of fear and desperation. "There has been a terrible misunderstanding this morning. My family and I deeply regret—" He stopped, reread it. It sounded pathetic, insincere, a groveling plea. He deleted it, started again. "Miss Ellis, I would like to apologize personally for any confusion at Meadowbrook today. Perhaps we could meet for dinner this week to discuss—" Delete. His phone rang. Unknown number. He answered, his voice a strained whisper. "Hello, Mr. Whitmore." A woman's voice, professional, precise, and utterly devoid of warmth. "This is Rebecca Carter from the Connecticut Post. We received information about an incident at Meadowbrook Country Club this morning. Would you care to comment?" David hung up, his heart hammering against his ribs. The phone rang again immediately, a different number. He declined the call. A text from his business partner flashed on the screen. "David, I'm seeing something online about Meadowbrook. What happened?" Another text, this one from his company's VP. "Boss, we need to talk. Urgent." An email notification popped up. Subject, Ellis Industries meeting status update. Delay. His hands were shaking so badly he almost dropped the phone. He didn't open the email. Couldn't. Patricia was pacing, a frantic, caged animal. "This is fixable," she insisted, clutching at straws. "We explain. We apologize. Rich people forgive rich people. That's how it works." "We're not rich like her," David said quietly, the words a bitter realization. "What?" Patricia stopped, her eyes wide. "Her company is worth $2.3 billion. We're worth $890 million. He laughed, a short, hysterical bark. "We're not even in the same league, Patricia." Brandon appeared beside the table, still grinning, oblivious to the unfolding catastrophe. "Dad, did you see? I got her good with the juice, right in the back." David looked at his son, truly looked at him. He saw himself, saw Patricia, saw everything they had taught this child, the poisonous legacy of their entitlement. "Go to the car," David said, his voice flat, drained. "But—" Brandon's smile faded, replaced by confusion. He walked away slowly, bewildered. Patricia's phone started buzzing incessantly, a relentless assault of notifications. Comments on her deleted story, people tagging her in posts, her Instagram feed exploding with activity. She opened one tag. Someone had screenshotted her original story and reposted it with new damning text. "Patricia Whitmore and family assault Jordan Ellis, CEO of Ellis Industries, at Meadowbrook Country Club. Dr. Ellis is worth 2.3 B and was evaluating the club for a $5 donation. The Whitmores just destroyed everything." The post had 800 likes, 100 shares, and it had been live for a mere 6 minutes. David, Patricia's voice was small now, fragile, childlike. David, people know. Everyone knows. His phone rang again. This time he recognized the number, Robert Henderson. He answered, a desperate flicker of hope in his chest. Robert, David, emergency board meeting tomorrow, 1:00 p.m. You and Patricia, mandatory. Robert hung up before David could respond, the line going dead again. Another call. His lawyer. David, I'm seeing things online. Don't say anything to anyone. Not reporters, not friends, no social media. Call me back immediately. A text from his mother. What is this? I'm hearing about Meadowbrook. Call me. A text from his sister. David, what the hell did you do? Emails from 3 different clients. We need to discuss our contract. Patricia was scrolling through Instagram, her follower count dropping like stones into a well. 47,000, 46,900, 46,800. Comments flooded in. Racist. Disgusting behavior. I'm unfollowing. This is why we need to eat the rich. She was crying now, mascara running in black rivulets down her cheeks, her hair disheveled. Make it stop, David. Make it stop. But he couldn't, because at that exact moment, across town, Jordan Ellis sat in her home office, the city lights twinkling beyond her window. The recording, tucked safely in her phone, was crystal clear. 23 minutes. Every word, every laugh, every insult. She had already sent it to her attorney. Rachel Martinez, a formidable civil rights specialist with 30 years of experience, called back within 10 minutes. Jordan! Rachel's voice was electric, a controlled excitement. This is everything. The audio is perfect. Multiple witnesses will corroborate. You have assault, battery, defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress. We can file Monday morning. What about criminal charges? Jordan asked, her voice calm, utterly composed. Possible, Rachel mused. The DA will want to review. Child assault statutes are tricky, but the parents are liable for supervision. Rachel paused, a shift in her tone. How much do you want to pursue this, Jordan? Jordan touched her hair, still sticky with chocolate, a faint, sweet smell clinging to her scalp. She looked at her blazer, hanging over her chair, the orange juice stain a bright, vivid orange. All of it, she said. I want all of it. Good. Rachel's smile was audible, radiating through the phone. Because I just got off the phone with the NAACP. They want to discuss a class action against Meadowbrook. Apparently, 3 other families of color were rejected for membership under Patricia's committee. Jordan pulled up Patricia's deleted Instagram story on her phone. Someone had already sent her the screenshot. She stared at it for a long moment, a faint, almost imperceptible smile touching her lips. Then she forwarded it to her company's PR team. Subject line, prepare a statement, press conference Monday, 11:00 a.m. She stood, walked to her window, and looked out at the glittering expanse of the city lights. Somewhere out there, the Whitmores were panicking. Good. Let them panic. Let them feel what she felt, kneeling on that floor. Let them understand what consequences actually mean. She smiled. For the first time since that morning, a genuine, chilling smile. Monday morning, 8:45 a.m. David Whitmore stood in the cavernous lobby of Ellis Industries, a shrine to modern power and ambition. Marble floors stretched 50 feet in every direction, gleaming under the soft, diffused light filtering through floor-to-ceiling windows. The air, rich with the subtle scent of expensive leather and newly minted money, felt impossibly heavy. He wore his best suit, a Tom Ford navy blue, a $3,000 armor that now felt flimsy and inadequate. In his hand, he clutched a bouquet of white roses, $200 from a florist who had opened early specifically for him. He had rehearsed his apology 17 times in front of the mirror, each syllable carefully chosen, each gesture practiced. His hands were sweating, leaving damp marks on the delicate rose petals. The receptionist, young, impeccably professional, looked up from her screen. Her smile was courteous, but cold, devoid of warmth. Mr. Whitmore? Yes, 9:00 meeting with Ms. Ellis, he managed, his voice a nervous croak. He placed the flowers gently on her desk. Could you give her these? With my sincerest apologies. Her smile didn't waver, remaining fixed and icy. Mr. Whitmore, there's been a schedule change. Ms. Ellis is unavailable. Unavailable? His voice cracked, rising in pitch. The contract presentation, the final decision, the culmination of 6 months of frantic work. My team flew in! He gestured wildly towards the elevator bank. You should check your email, she suggested, her tone flat, revealing nothing. David pulled out his phone, his hands shaking so violently he nearly dropped it. An email received at exactly 9 a.m. Subject, Ellis Industries HQ project bid status. Update. He opened it, his vision blurring. He read the first line 3 times, the words refusing to coalesce into meaning. Dear Mr. Whitmore, after comprehensive review, Ellis Industries has decided to pursue alternative partnerships for our headquarters campus project. Your firm's bid has been withdrawn from consideration, effective immediately. This decision is final. We wish you success in future endeavors. The phone slipped from his numb fingers, clattering on the marble floor with a hollow sound. $15 billion. Gone. The receptionist, without a word, picked up his phone and handed it back. Anything else, Mr. Whitmore? He couldn't speak. He could only stare at the unfeeling words on the screen, a death sentence for his career. Behind him, the elevator chimed softly. His project team emerged, 6 individuals, architects, engineers, financial analysts, all dressed for the presentation of their lives, their faces alight with nervous anticipation. David, his lead architect, a man who had dedicated hundreds of hours to this bid, approached him, a hopeful smile on his face. Go home! David's voice was hollow, a ghost of its former self. What? The architect's smile vanished. We lost it! Go home! They stood frozen, mouths agape, briefcases hanging uselessly at their sides. David walked past them, a zombie in an expensive suit, through the gleaming lobby, out the doors, and into the stark concrete of the parking garage. He sat in his Mercedes for 20 minutes, staring at nothing, his world collapsing around him. His phone rang, a jarring intrusion into his silent despair. Patricia. Did you fix it? Her voice was desperate, shrill with anxiety. Did you apologize? What did she say? We lost the contract, David said, his voice flat, devoid of emotion. Silence, a sharp intake of breath on the other end. What? The $1.5 billion? Her voice was a fragile whisper. Gone? Gone. Patricia's breathing grew ragged, short, frantic gasps. But you apologized. The flowers. It doesn't matter, David said, a bitter, hollow laugh escaping him. She canceled at exactly 9 o'clock, probably decided Saturday night. David, what do we do? Her voice was breaking. I don't know. He hung up, the weight of the world pressing down on him. Across town, Jordan Ellis entered a packed conference room. 20 journalists, 5 news stations, a forest of NPR microphones, photographers lining the walls like eager vultures. She wore charcoal, her hair impeccably styled, makeup perfect. She didn't just walk. She radiated power, an aura of quiet authority. Attorney Rachel Martinez stood stoically to her left. 2 representatives from the NAACP flanked her right, a visual testament to the broader implications of this moment. Jordan approached the podium, a serene warrior. Silence fell, broken only by the rapid-fire clicks of camera shutters. Good morning, she began, her voice steady, each word deliberate, resonating with controlled power. Thank you for coming. On Saturday, May 18th, Jordan continued, her voice clear and strong, I attended Meadowbrook Country Club as an invited guest. Cameras flashed, a blinding staccato. Journalists, pens poised, typed furiously on their laptops. I was evaluating the club for a $5 million STEM donation. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Instead, she paused, allowing the gravity of her next words to sink in. I was physically assaulted by a 12-year-old child. His parents laughed. I was told I didn't belong. I was accused of theft. I was subjected to racial slurs and publicly humiliated. She paused again, her gaze sweeping across the faces in the room, holding them captive. I recorded everything. The room erupted. Questions shouted over each other, a cacophony of urgent demands. Jordan raised one hand, a simple gesture that commanded immediate silence. I'll play 30 seconds now. She nodded to a technician. Audio filled the room, amplified and chillingly clear. Patricia's voice, sharp and venomous. What the hell is she doing here? An impact sound, the croissant hitting. Patricia's laugh, vicious and delighted. That's what happens when trash doesn't know its place. David's voice, booming with false authority. You out now before I have you arrested for trespassing. Brandon's young, cruel voice, high with triumph. I got her good. The recording stopped. Several journalists covered their mouths, their faces pale. One woman in the back row openly wept. Jordan continued, her voice unwavering. This isn't one isolated incident. This is systemic discrimination, assumptions based on appearance, the indignity people of color face daily, regardless of their achievement. She looked directly into the camera, addressing a far wider audience. I have a PhD from MIT. I built a $2.3 billion company. I employ 12,000 people. None of that protected me from being treated like trash in that country club. Her voice didn't waver, but rather intensified, a quiet thunder. Today, I'm filing a civil suit against the Whitmore family. Assault, battery, defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress. Rachel Martinez stepped forward, her presence a solid pillar of legal might. The NAACP is simultaneously investigating Meadowbrook's membership practices. We have compelling evidence of systematic discrimination. Jordan held up her phone, and on the large screen behind her, Patricia's deleted Instagram screenshot appeared, a permanent digital scar. Mrs. Whitmore posted this publicly, mocking me. She deleted it, but the internet, Jordan said, her voice laced with chilling finality, is forever. A reporter, her hand trembling slightly, raised it. Miss Ellis, your company just canceled a $1.5 billion contract with Whitmore Properties. Is that retaliation? Jordan's face remained a mask of stone, her composure unshakable. My board decided independently. I recused myself due to conflict of interest. She paused, her gaze piercing. But I'll say this, Ellis Industries partners with companies sharing our values. Character matters in business. Another reporter, emboldened by the raw emotion in the room, called out, "What do you want, Miss Ellis?" Jordan looked directly into the camera, her eyes ablaze with a fierce, quiet resolve. Accountability. Consequences. Her voice gained momentum, a powerful crescendo. I want people to understand wealth doesn't grant permission for cruelty. Power doesn't excuse prejudice. She stepped back from the podium, a figure of uncompromising strength. Thank you. No further questions. The room erupted into a deafening clamor of voices and questions. Jordan, flanked by her security detail, walked out, a force of nature. 10 minutes later, the press conference trended on Twitter. 30 minutes later, major networks ran the story as breaking news. Within an hour, it was national news. By noon, the Whitmore's world was on fire. David sat in his car, parked in the Ellis Industries garage, watching his phone blow up. Clients calling, frantic lawyers calling, his mother calling, his business partners calling, everyone. He didn't answer any of them. He just stared at the gleaming Ellis Industries building through his windshield, the building that should have been his greatest achievement. Now, it was his grave. David released a statement at 2 p.m. Monday. His lawyer had written it, 3 drafts, meticulously worded, legally vetted to within an inch of its life. I deeply regret a misunderstanding that occurred at Meadowbrook Country Club. My family and I sincerely apologize to Ms. Ellis. We acted without full information and are committed to learning from this experience. He posted it on LinkedIn, on his company website, and emailed it to every client. The internet tore it apart in minutes. Misunderstanding? You assaulted her. You're only sorry you got caught. Without full information? You didn't need information to treat her with respect. Pathetic. By 3 p.m., his phone was exploding again. 3 major clients terminated contracts. Shopping center deals worth $18 million. Office park renovations worth $12 million. All gone. The emails were identical, professional, cold. After careful consideration, we've decided to pursue other partnerships. This decision reflects our commitment to values-based business relationships. Values-based. The phrase was a knife twisting in the wound. David's business partner called, his voice strained and grim. David, the board wants you out. They're voting Wednesday. He paused, his tone laced with a desperate plea. I built this company with your grandfather. You're destroying it. The line went dead. Patricia posted an Instagram video at 4 p.m. She sat in their opulent master bedroom, makeup running, eyes red and swollen, hair disheveled and uncombed. I made a terrible mistake. Her voice shook, a fragile whisper. I judged someone without knowing them. I'm so sorry. Tears streamed down her face, a pathetic performative display. I'm not a racist. I have black friends. I volunteer at the community center. I donate to... The comments came instantly, a digital tsunami of outrage. You don't have black friends. You're crying because you got caught, not because you're sorry. I'm not racist is exactly what racists say. You showed your true colors. Own it. Her follower count dropped rapidly. 47,000, 43,000, 38,000. Falling like dominoes. Sponsorship emails arrived in a relentless flood. High-end jewelry brands, luxury skincare lines, designer handbag companies all carried the same message. We're terminating our partnership, effective immediately. Your recent actions don't align with our brand values. Patricia read each one, her hands shaking, her breathing coming in ragged gasps. She had spent 5 years meticulously building her influencer career. 5 years of perfectly curated photos, aspirational lifestyle content, brand deals worth 6 figures annually, all gone in 4 hours. Brandon's private school called at 5:00 p.m. The headmaster's voice, grave and unyielding, delivered the final blow. Mr. and Mrs. Whitmore, the board has reviewed Saturday's incident. Combined with Brandon's previous behavioral issues, we've decided his enrollment at Berkshire Academy is no longer tenable. You're expelling him? Patricia's voice was shrill, incredulous. We donated a library wing. We're refunding your donation, the headmaster replied, his voice firm. Brandon's behavior represents a liability we cannot accept. He's 12 years old and he assaulted a guest at a country club. His parents encouraged it. This reveals a pattern we should have addressed earlier. The headmaster paused, allowing his words to sink in. I'm sorry. The decision is final. Patricia called 4 other elite private schools. All had waiting lists. All said they'd call back. None did. Meadowbrook Country Club's board met Monday evening for an emergency session. All 12 members were present, their faces grim. Robert Henderson presided, his face gray, etched with exhaustion. He hadn't slept since Saturday. We have audio evidence, he stated, his voice flat. Video from multiple members, social media posts. The Whitmores assaulted an invited guest, a guest I personally invited to discuss a $5 million donation. Board member Sarah Carter, a prominent attorney, spoke, her voice sharp and decisive. We need to act. This is a PR catastrophe of monumental proportions. It's more than PR, another member added, his voice low with disgust. It's moral bankruptcy. The vote was unanimous. The Whitmore family membership permanently revoked. Access to all facilities terminated immediately. The letter was delivered by courier at 7:00 p.m. Patricia opened it with shaking hands, reading aloud, her voice trembling. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Whitmore, Dear Ms. Whitmore, the Meadowbrook Country Club Board of Directors has voted to permanently revoke your family membership, effective immediately. This decision follows conduct unbecoming of Meadowbrook values, including assault on an invited guest and racial harassment. Your access cards have been deactivated. Please arrange to collect your personal items from your locker by Friday. She dropped the letter, the paper fluttering to the floor like a dying bird. This is our entire social life, she whispered, her voice small, broken. David stared at the wall, his eyes vacant. It's worse than that. His phone buzzed. Another email. His bank. Dear Mr. Whitmore, we'd like to schedule a meeting to discuss your business loan terms. Several recent developments require review of your credit facility. They were calling his loans. $50 million in active financing. Projects under construction. Payroll to meet. If the bank pulled out, everything would collapse. Patricia looked at him, mascara streaked across her face, a portrait of utter despair. What do we do? David's laugh was bitter, empty. We beg. Beg who? Jordan Ellis. He picked up his phone, his fingers shaking so badly he could barely type. We beg for mercy. Please, Miss Ellis. I have 400 employees depending on this. I'm begging you. Just give me 5 minutes to apologize properly. He hit send, staring at the screen, a desperate plea launched into the digital void. No response came. None would. The story went viral Tuesday morning, an unstoppable digital wildfire. CNN ran it at 6 a.m. Tech CEO assaulted at country club. Audio reveals racial harassment. MSNBC followed at 7 a.m. when privilege meets power, the Jordan Ellis case. Fox News at 8 a.m. Country club controversy sparks national debate. By noon, Jordan's name was trending on Twitter. Number 1, Jordan Ellis, # Meadowbrook racism, # everyday racism. TikTok exploded. Patricia's vicious laugh became a sound clip, millions of videos featuring people mocking her voice, acting out the scene, calling for justice. The audio snippet had 15 million plays in 24 hours. Memes flooded Instagram, side-by-side photos of Patricia's deleted post next to Jordan's Forbes cover. Caption, "When you assault a billionaire and don't even know it." Brandon's orange juice throw became an animated GIF, shared 200,000 times, a cartoon of childish cruelty. Jordan appeared on Good Morning America Wednesday. The host, Michelle Carter, leaned forward, her expression sympathetic but professional. "Dr. Ellis, walk us through what happened Saturday." Jordan's voice was calm, measured. She had told this story 100 times now, meticulously rehearsed, each word carrying the weight of experience. It didn't get easier. "I went to evaluate the club's culture," she explained, "to see if they deserved a $5 million investment." She paused, her gaze distant, remembering. "Within an hour, a child threw food at my head. His parents laughed. They told me I didn't belong. They accused me of theft. They had me escorted out." "And you recorded everything?" Michelle asked, her voice hushed. "I did. I've learned to document discrimination. It's the only protection we have." Michelle's voice dropped, laced with genuine empathy. "How did it feel at that moment, Dr. Ellis?" Jordan's eyes went distant, lost in memory. "Like, no matter what I achieve, I'll always be judged by my skin first. My credentials are second, if at all." The interview clip got 12 million views. Business schools, from Harvard to Stanford to Wharton, started using the case. Ethics and corporate partnerships, the Ellis Whitmore case study. Students debated, was pulling the contract justified? Was it retaliation or accountability? Most sided with Jordan. The Connecticut Post ran a deeper investigation Thursday, its front page emblazoned with a banner headline, "Whitmore Properties, a Pattern of Discrimination." The reporter, James Liu, had interviewed 43 people, former employees, rejected tenants, business partners. The stories were damning. A black family, credit score over 800, combined income $200,000, perfect application, had been denied an apartment in 2022. The reason given, insufficient references. A white family with a worse credit score was approved the same week. A former Whitmore employee testified anonymously, David would look at applications and say things like, "Not the right fit for our properties." Everyone knew what that meant. Email evidence surfaced. David Whitmore, reviewing rental applications. One email to his property manager. "The Johnson application. I don't think they're Whitmore material. Find a reason." The Johnsons were black. Another email. "Let's prioritize the Anderson family. They'll fit better with our tenant community." The Andersons were white. Federal housing investigators opened a case Friday. Possible Fair Housing Act violations, systematic discrimination in rental practices. Fines could reach millions. Criminal charges were possible. Meadowbrook's investigation expanded. The NAACP found 3 more families, all rejected for membership in the past 2 years. All people of color, all with credentials that far exceeded most current members. Dr. Michael Carter, a renowned surgeon from Yale Medical School, annual income $400,000. Rejected. Reason given, membership at capacity. 2 white families were approved the same month. Maria Rodriguez, a federal judge from Harvard Law, impeccable reputation. Rejected. Reason, not enough member recommendations. She had 3, the minimum required was 2. The Davis family, both parents attorneys, children at top private schools. Rejected. Reason, concerns about cultural fit. Cultural fit. The phrase appeared in 17 rejection letters over 5 years. Every single rejected family was non-white. Former committee members, now terrified of legal repercussions, started talking, giving anonymous interviews. Patricia controlled everything, one confessed. She'd look at photos and make snap judgments. She once said we needed to maintain the club's traditional character. We all knew what she meant. If a minority family applied, she'd find reasons. Always reasons that sounded legitimate, but weren't. The NAACP filed a class action suit Wednesday. $12 million in damages, federal discrimination charges, demands for systematic reform. Meadowbrook's board panicked. They enacted emergency measures, hired a diversity consultant, announced mandatory bias training for all staff and members, pledged to fast-track minority applications. Too little, too late. 47 members resigned in protest, not because of the discrimination, but because of the reforms. One resignation letter leaked online. Meadowbrook has lost its way. The club was built on certain standards. Those standards are now being destroyed by political correctness. The The letter went viral. The member who wrote it was identified. His law firm dropped him. Jordan's legal team prepared for trial. Rachel Martinez assembled a devastating case. The crystal-clear audio evidence, video from 5 different cell phones, social media posts, witness testimony, medical records documenting emotional distress, and a lineup of expert witnesses. Dr. Sarah Johnson, a psychologist, testified about racial trauma. Public humiliation based on race causes documented PTSD symptoms, anxiety, depression, hypervigilance. Dr. Marcus Williams, a sociologist, testified about country club discrimination. These institutions have historically excluded people of color. They've adapted their language, but the discrimination persists. Thomas, the Meadowbrook manager, finally agreed to testify. After 30 years of enforced silence, he spoke. "I've watched the Whitmores humiliate people for years. Staff, guests, anyone they deemed beneath them. Saturday was just the first time someone fought back." Margaret, the elderly woman who had tried to intervene, also testified, her voice trembling but resolute. "I'm ashamed I didn't stand up. I'm ashamed it took this long, but Patricia Whitmore has been cruel for years. We all looked away." The Whitmores tried desperately to settle. Their attorney made offers, $2 million, then $5 million, then $8 million. Rachel brought each offer to Jordan. Jordan refused them all. "I want a trial," she stated, her gaze firm. "I want testimony on public record. I want everyone to see what happened." "This isn't about money," Rachel said, understanding. "No," Jordan affirmed. "It's about accountability." The trial was set, October 15th, Federal Courthouse. Judge Maria Santos presiding. Media credentials requested, 200 outlets. The judge limited it to 50. Courtroom capacity, 120 seats. Demand, thousands. The trial would be live-streamed, a first in Connecticut federal court history. Meanwhile, the Whitmores were drowning. David's company lost 40% of its value. 6 major clients were gone. 3 projects canceled. The bank restructured his loans with devastating terms. Higher interest, shorter timelines, personal guarantees required. He laid off 60 employees, then 40 more. His CFO resigned. His VP of operations quit. The company that had employed 400 now employed 280 and falling. Patricia's influencer career was dead. 3,000 followers remained, a pitiful fraction of her former glory. No sponsorships, no brand deals, no income. Her friends stopped calling. Her charity boards removed her. Her book club uninvited her. She was a pariah. Brandon was in public school now, the only option left. He was bullied daily by kids who recognized him from the news, kids whose parents had seen the viral videos. One afternoon, someone threw food at him in the cafeteria. The principal called Patricia, her voice a detached monotone. "We need to discuss Brandon's safety." Patricia hung up without responding. The irony was not lost on anyone. Autumn arrived. The leaves turned gold and red, a brilliant, bittersweet backdrop to the approaching trial date. The Whitmores had one last card to play. A public apology, complete and unequivocal, on national television. They arranged an interview, NBC prime time, their final, desperate attempt at redemption. It would not go as planned. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Unanimous verdict, guilty on all counts. $8.5 million in damages, $3.5 million compensatory, $5 million punitive. The jury foreman, a retired teacher, spoke to reporters afterward. "We wanted to send a message. Wealth doesn't excuse cruelty. Power doesn't grant permission to discriminate." Criminal charges followed. The prosecutor was thorough, assault, contributing to the delinquency of a minor, child endangerment. The Whitmores pleaded no contest, seeking to avoid another public trial, hoping to minimize publicity. The judge, however, was not lenient. 200 hours of community service each, mandatory diversity education programs, teaching tolerance workshops, 3 years probation. Any violation meant jail time. Brandon was placed in intensive therapy, weekly sessions mandatory for 2 years, and sentenced to community service at a youth center serving underprivileged kids. The judge's words were pointed. This child learned hatred from his parents. Perhaps serving those he was taught to despise will teach him humanity. David filed for bankruptcy 6 months later. Personal and corporate assets liquidated. The mansion was sold at auction, $12 million vanishing into the maw of creditors and legal fees. They moved to a rental. 2 bedrooms, 500 square feet. The kind of place they once wouldn't have noticed, wouldn't have even considered fit for their gardener. David worked as a consultant now, small projects, a modest income. His reputation, a shadow of its former self, preceded him. Doors that had once opened automatically were now permanently closed. Patricia, her gilded cage shattered, worked retail, a department store cosmetics counter, minimum wage plus commission. Her manager was a black woman named Tasha. Patricia, humbled and broken, called her ma'am. The irony was suffocating, a constant bitter taste. Meadowbrook settled the class action. $12 million to the rejected families. Mandatory reforms were implemented. Diversity quotas requiring 40% of new members to be people of color for 5 years. The club hired Dr. James Morrison as its first diversity officer. He implemented sweeping changes, mandatory bias training for all members, zero-tolerance policies for discrimination, anonymous complaint systems. 63 members, clinging to their antiquated notions of privilege, resigned in protest. They joined other clubs, clubs that still welcomed traditional values. But Meadowbrook survived, changed, and ultimately, better. Jordan stood in Ellis Industries headquarters 3 months after the verdict, a beacon of justice. It was a company town hall meeting. 1,200 employees packed into the auditorium, thousands more watching via live stream. That day at Meadowbrook, she began, her voice carrying across the room, clear and strong. I had a choice. She paused, allowing the words to settle. Stay silent and take the high road, or stand up and demand accountability. A beat of profound silence. I chose to stand, not just for me, for every person of color who's been judged, dismissed, humiliated for simply existing in spaces others deem not for you. Applause erupted, thunderous and heartfelt. She waited for silence, a calm conductor orchestrating the moment. People ask if I regret how it escalated. Never. Because silence enables oppression. Silence protects abusers. Silence tells the next Brandon Whitmore that cruelty has no consequences. She smiled, warm now, genuine, a brilliant light. Today I'm announcing the Beyond Appearances Initiative, $20 million in full scholarships for students of color in STEM fields, 15 university partnerships, 200 students in our first class. The applause was deafening, a tidal wave of affirmation. My success is my activism. Every door I open, I hold for others. Every table I sit at, I pull up more chairs. 6 months later, Jordan spoke at a civil rights conference in Atlanta. 5,000 attendees, a standing ovation before she even reached the podium. The Whitmores, in their opulent ignorance, had learned an expensive lesson. Character has no dress code. Respect isn't reserved for people you recognize. Dignity isn't determined by designer labels. She looked across the vast crowd, faces of every color, every background, every story. But here's the truth, Jordan said, her voice softening, yet gaining an undeniable power. Most people don't want to hear it. This story isn't unique. Every single day, people of color face judgment based on appearance, assumptions based on skin color, dismissal based on stereotypes. Her voice intensified, passionate now, radiating a fierce conviction. The difference? I had resources to fight back. Most don't. Most swallow the insult. Most walk away silently. Most carry the wound forever. She gripped the podium, her knuckles white. So I'm asking you, when you see it happen, speak up. When you witness discrimination, document it. When you have power, use it to protect those who don't. The crowd was silent, hanging on every word, captivated by her raw honesty. Because the Whitmores aren't the exception. They're a symptom. And until we all commit to calling out injustice, nothing changes. If this story moved you, share it. Let it spark conversations about bias and accountability. Comment below. Have you witnessed discrimination? How did you respond? Subscribe to Blacktail Stories for more stories where justice prevails and the underestimated triumph. Hit that notification bell. These stories need to be told. She leaned forward, her gaze piercing, challenging, reaching through the screen to every listener. But here's what I want you to think about tonight. How many Jordan Ellises have you dismissed based on first glance? How many times has your assumption robbed someone of basic dignity? The truth is uncomfortable. We've all been the Whitmores at some point, making judgments without information, assumptions without evidence. The question isn't whether you've done it, it's whether you'll do it again. What's your answer? Jordan's face filled the screen, confident, powerful, looking directly into the camera. She wasn't asking permission anymore. She was demanding change, and the world was finally listening.